Hello. Welcome to an introduction to social media marketing. And we're going to go over a couple of things with just a quick overview of social media here for the week. Before I go any further, I just want to share a couple of quick overview points. I think a lot of you probably already familiar with a lot of the terminology and a lot of the numbers that I'll be sharing here, but wanted to at least make sure that I level set and make sure we have a good baseline understanding for everything that we're going to talk about over the next couple of weeks. So, when we begin, first there's the definition of social media. I think we all know what it is, but just in case you don't, it's electronic communication, including websites for social networking and microblogging, which would be like Twitter, now X, and Threads and Blue Sky, through which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content like videos. Now, social media as a term has only been around for about, I don't know, 20, less than 20 years. Um, I think the term really picked up after Facebook had really taken off as the number one social network. It supplanted MySpace around 2006, I think. And at that point, the idea of social networking really took hold around the world. So, um, ever since then, we have been in this perpetual state of technological evolution within the industry. And what do I mean by that? But, well, look no further than this slide here. Um, if you think about how long it has taken various technologies to reach a 50 million person threshold, with technology, there's no risk. You think about how many times Facebook has changed its interface, right? Its website, its app, and people might get mad, throw a fit for a couple minutes, throw a couple days, but nothing really happens. People just stop talking about it, and it becomes the norm. That's not the same when you think about other major technologies. Think about autonomous vehicles. If a self-driving car experiment goes wrong, people die. It could be a lot of people dying. On social media, if something goes wrong, you get a couple people slinging some profanities. Maybe a couple people get a 404 error, but then that's it. Maybe some people lose their jobs because Mark Zuckerberg's angry at what the fallout was, but it's not the same. And so now in this internet world, you see with every new product, it's becoming easier and easier to reach millions and millions of people. This slide doesn't even include the fact that ChatGPT broke Pokemon Go's record, and then Threads beat that record. I believe it was about 2 days, maybe less, to reach even 100 million people. I just want to jump ahead right into this, what we're talking about this week, because I don't like to dawdle and have hour-long lecture videos. Um, Social media has disrupted the world of marketing as we know it. I first started teaching a class called Introduction to Digital Marketing in 2017. And now, if you think about what marketing is, the first thing you think about is digital marketing activities. And when you think about digital marketing, the first thing you think about is usually social media. So it has completely changed what we know of what we know as marketing today. And we're just going to go over a couple of reasons that it has been that disruptor. Let's start with this graph here. Why do people use social media? The number one reason, overwhelmingly, is that they want to keep in touch with family and friends. They are there to connect with people. Surprisingly, over the years, you see filling spare time, reading news stories, and finding content have picked up. Seeing what's being talked about, the trending piece, that's also picking up. You have to go all the way down to the number sixth item at 27.3%. That's how many people use social media to find products to purchase. I think it's worded a little poorly, but that and the one under it, finding inspiration for things to do. Those two reasons really are pretty far down the list. And when you're a brand thinking about how you're going to use social media, think about why people are there in the first place. Um, because when people do follow brands, they usually do it because they're interested in the brand. Um, you'll see in a couple of weeks here we're going to have well, I have a case study on Duolingo, and it's amassed millions of followers. Those millions of followers are not following Duolingo to stay informed about new products or services. They're doing it because it's a funny account. They're still going to get content about the product, about the learning a new language app. And yeah, a lot of them are probably going to turn into paying customers. It's just Duolingo just had its most successful quarter ever. That's happened like the last 3 or 4 quarters. Um, so I do think, when you look at data like this, in general, yes, people are following brands to stay informed about their products and services. But every now and then you can be that Duolingo. It is the exception, not the rule. For that number 3 line here, the content they post is enjoyable and entertaining. The way that brands and consumers connect today has changed now pretty drastically to be one of a two-way street. It is not a one-way street. It is not just brands yelling at consumers. It is back and forth. There are engagements that go, that happen, and brands that fail to do that, brands that fail to understand that and just yell out into the void, those are the ones that fall flat. Those are the ones that you just see sharing their own stuff that you're just thinking, oh, there's nothing here. Like, why would I follow Subway for just posting $5 footlongs when I see the commercials all the time? It's a it's an interesting um, relationship between social media and brands. The ones that get it right, though, they're the ones that understand that it's a two-way street that requires a full strategy that connects back to your organization. Now, before I go any further, I just want to do a quick reminder of the 3 types of media. I think everybody who's watching this will know what these are. Um, Paid, owned, earned media. Now, social media has drastically disrupted, I guess the word is, all 3 of these. We're going to go over a couple of them right now. But the key takeaway in this slide is there's stuff in this on this page that goes outside of social media, like blogging site, mobile site, things like that. But when you think about a digital marketing strategy, you want to have a holistic strategy, one that encompasses all 3 elements of the trifecta. Even if you don't have any budget for paid, that's okay. Eventually, you do want to have this ideal state, this ideal strategy that does incorporate elements of paid media. I don't think you need to have all these things. Obviously, I think it's more pick and choose. Most companies that I work with, it's usually social media advertising, maybe some pay per click, then a heavy focus on earned media and also a heavy focus on owned media. Because if you don't have anything interesting to say, why should anybody care? Let's start with earned media first. This is really quick. I mean, I didn't think I was going to get into this week 1, but then I started talking through, what do I want to do for introductions, and I came to this. So, user generated content is really anything that anybody creates, any users create. From a social media perspective, it's earned media because you would assume that it's about what your brand is doing. Think of it as an online review for social media, because for a company on social media, user generated content is really literally anything that you post online, that I post online as a user, not as a brand. But earned media for brands, it's becoming less about traditional news. And a lot of companies, too, are really bad at pitching news for these traditional stories, not to mention viewership in people that watch the news every night is declining. Instead, brands are getting a lot more out of user generated content, and they can capitalize on that and promote it on their own platforms to build that authenticity, that element of reputation. So, when you think about how many people are out there doing, sharing their thoughts on brand XYZ, um, there's also a branding element to that where there is an opportunity to really do something with the positives and sometimes even the negatives that come out of um, all of those interactions. So, next, let's talk about the paid. Um, Social media advertising has become billions and billions of dollars worth um, of ad spends per year. Um, the very first major ad buy I did that was what, six figures, was all about radio and print ads. And now the major ones that I do are all about social media advertising. You can throw some Google AdWords in there too, but for the most part, companies love their social media ads. People find it more trustworthy. And really, when you think about how the other platforms work, how if they're effective, it's kind of messy. Um, this doesn't might not look like much to you, but one thing that you'll notice are the years at the bottom. By the time we get to 2026, you're looking at digital not only dominate with over 50%, but closing in on 60% of global ad spend. That second one is TV, which for years was like the number one category. And then after that, you have print, out of home, which are like billboards, audio, like what you'd see on Spotify or podcasts, and cinema, because that's not really that's a nothing burger these days. So, the key thing here is social media has changed the way that companies advertise. Um, when I look at social media advertising, I don't, in a B2C world, you use it to promote products, right? On Instagram, we've all seen and probably fallen for some ads for maybe bought a shirt or something or a gift for somebody. Um, but there's three big advantages to advertising. We'll talk about these later in another video. But really, when you think about social media advertising, what advantages does it have? Number one, it's targeting. You can target much better. You think about classic out of home billboards or magazines. You don't get a lot of information other than just like general numbers. Oh, our billboards, they're seen by 10,000 vehicles a day. Okay, somebody stood on that's it. Today with social media ads, you can target based on behaviors, target based on interests that are triangulated from all these other sources. You can target based on pages that people like, that accounts people follow. It's become so intense that you are at a point where you can create hyper custom, hyper personalized advertising that becomes actually hard for people to not convert, to not become a customer, or at least click through and learn a little bit more about what it is that you're selling. If you've ever thought like, wow, that Instagram ad, like that, it's like it's talking to me, it's because they know how to target. Um, Second big advantage to social media advertising is the analytics that are available after the fact. We're going to look at those shortly. Um, you think about if you've ever run social media advertising before, you are bombarded with numbers, and those numbers start immediately. Like you launch an ad and it's live that day, and you can see how people are responding immediately. You don't get that with traditional advertising. It's just not something that was a thing until months and months later, if anything. Sometimes you don't even know. The third advantage is really the user base, is that you can reach numbers that were otherwise unheard of. Maybe television for a while, like if you had bought a Super Bowl ad, you could reach what whatever. I don't even know how many people watch the Super Bowl anymore. You could reach tens of millions of people, but now you can do that at a fraction of the price. It's not guaranteed that they're gonna even really consume your content. They might just scroll past really quickly. You get a lot of that banner blindness today, but there are It's a very economical practice. Most of Meta's revenue comes from advertising, not and same with Google, not other sources. So it's pretty interesting. All right, back to the earned media piece. This is a little bit different than user generated content, but people use social media to consume the news. I think we've all seen this. Two-thirds of Americans report they get at least some of their news on social media. I probably get three-quarters of it. We're in a world with a lot of misinformation, though, now, so you see that number start to waver. Um, with our youngest generation of people making purchases, which is Gen Z, um, they are the ones that are using often TikTok for news, Instagram. I know for years I used Twitter. Now I use, I guess, Threads. Um, it's because you're always on your phone, you're always connected, so it's a little bit different. Um, then the last part, this is the customer journey. That doesn't really connect to a type of media, but this is more of just like a couple of important statements here. Hey, the most memorable thing a brand can do on social media is respond to customer. This goes back to that two-way street. Having a one-on-one connection is so important. It's an opportunity for brands that you didn't have in the past. And when you think about customer care on social media, the focus has shifted from just spending money to one that's all about delivering personalized, really high quality customer service. Um, I personally have encountered a lot of situations where brands have reached out to me when I've said something that I like disparaging them on social media. Like, oh, how can we help? Like, what's your receipt number? Like, they'll ask all these questions. It's really interesting to see like which industries prioritize this more. Go to any airline's Twitter account and you'll see in the replies that's all they do is respond to people who have gripes about it, trying to help them out. The other thing on the customer buying thing though is people use social media now to buy stuff. You see the TikTok shop has taken off recently. You can now buy within the Instagram app, obviously on Facebook, like the marketplace too, reselling. People are buying more than ever, not just online, but on social media. This chart or this graph is really important to look at because that 1,085, that is $1 billion. That's over $1 billion will be purchased um, through social media. So it's pretty shocking to see how far it's come since 2018, where it was only 82 million, which a lot of this is just all the platforms suddenly allow you to purchase natively within the app. Instagram will pull up a website. TikTok has its own shop. Facebook has the marketplace. There's all these different things. And it's really, really interesting. If you're in the B2C sector, you have all these opportunities. B2B, a little bit different. It's actually a completely different discussion. But B2C, golden opportunity. Um, all right, if we talk more about the platforms, we're not going to go over all these here. We are going to look at Facebook and Instagram. We will talk about YouTube, TikTok, a little bit about X, very little about Snapchat. Not more than a passing mention on WhatsApp, especially here in the US. You don't see a lot of brands using it much. Pinterest, not much, but then LinkedIn, we will have a lot of discussion about here. Hey, what do you use for customer service? Shockingly, I did not expect Facebook to be so high. I expected some of the other ones to be higher, but if you just look at the comparisons, can they usually match up except for Instagram? Only 35% of consumers use Instagram for customer service, like to respond, but 60% of marketers are using Instagram. And I think that's just an increased focus and awareness on brands trying to just engage with the other posts and not just post their own stuff. Here's some metrics that are interesting. The one big takeaway here is that engagement metrics seem to be king or queen, whatever. They're in the lead. Engagement metrics, total engagements. I mean, those are likes, shares, comments, and clicks. That is your equation for total engagements. Likes also could be just reactions. So now you have like you could do a celebrate or a hand clap instead of just a like. But that's a really important one to know is just like what are all the different things that make up an engagement? You have VPs and executives, just about everybody uses engagements as a good KPI. Um, Not necessarily always the best move, but it's the one that is easiest to see. It's not just a vanity metric. And at least in the minds of a lot of people, engagements mean your stuff is seen by more people. So if I get 100 likes, well, of course, it's probably seen by thousands. But this slide, what this does is this really shows that there's a fundamental misunderstanding and disconnect between the highest levels of a business and those who are in it every day. Um, Now, these do somewhat match, but then after you get a little bit lower, like 58% of people, the strategists, managers, and directors are still looking at reach and impressions. VPs and executives are thinking like, no, that's a vanity metric. We don't need that. When in reality, actually, we do. Um, you can't get engagements without reach, without impressions. And impressions, sometimes you need to see posts a couple of times. This isn't like advertising where impressions have gone out the window from a measurement standpoint. Um, Isolating impressions are actually pretty important because the way that the algorithm works now, some posts will do great. They'll get tons of engagements. Others will fall flat, and you're not going to see. If you think about like on LinkedIn is where I'm the biggest. I could post a LinkedIn. I could publish a LinkedIn post on a company page that I manage. It could reach 1,000 people and get 70 likes, 70 engagements, I should say, or we'll say 100 total engagements. Really nice. Um, but then if the next day I might turn around and be like, wow, how did I only get 3 total engagements? Oh, well, it only actually got 100 impressions. Now, tell me, like, what's the symptom? What is the actual cause of this? Well, that engagement rate has gone from 10% to 3%. I'm sure if we had reached 1,000 people, we probably would have that engagement rate go up a little bit. But really, it's because I'm not paying attention to the impressions and I'm not paying attention to what the algorithm is saying is working and delivering to a broader audience. We'll talk more about that as we go through. Here's a huge list of metrics that I just wanted to pull out after looking at this slide here. The big ones to know, I bolded clicks, engagements, reach. You will need to know engagement rate at some point, and we will talk about social media ROI later. But for now, those are the big ones. Um, engagements again, clicks, reach, reactions, likes, things like that. So those are important, pretty important to know just off the bat. Now, another thing that I wanted to call attention to was the conversion rate. A conversion is what you want someone to do on your website or on social media or something, anywhere online. So if your company is posting on social media and your goal is to get, let's say it's B2B, you want to get people to fill out a lead form. A conversion would be to fill out the lead form. If you put a post on social media that's promoting your case study that you have, maybe, and you're driving people to the website and you really want to get some leads, your conversion rate would be however many lead form fills you get, right, divided by really the total people who saw. Well, different companies do different things. How many people actually saw the post? So you could also say, oh, conversion rate should just be measured by website traffic. But anyways, it's like what's the percentage of people that actually completed the conversion that you're looking for? I won't go through all the other definitions right now, but one other thing I will mention: reach, similar to impressions, except these are the unique individuals that you reach. Impressions are total, right? So if I see a LinkedIn post from your company twice in one day, that counts as 2 impressions. However, that would only be one in the reach column because I only saw it. I'm one person. Reach is a nice number to have in comparison to impressions, but not all platforms measure it by default. Facebook is actually really good at measuring. Facebook and Instagram are both really good at measuring both impressions compared to reach. Something like LinkedIn, not as good. Um, TikTok, not quite as good, although they will give you unique versus total. So that's a good distinction to know when it comes to these analytics. All right. A couple slides left. A couple other terms. Social media marketing is when social media marketers are actually using social media to increase brand awareness and these other things. Um, Really, you know, content is supposed to attract, resonate with, and encourage your audience to engage with content. It The big misunderstanding that I just want to get out there now is that social media, organic social media, stuff that doesn't have paid, doesn't have any advertising budget on it. Organic social media should not have a goal of sales. Should not have a goal of driving sales. It should be strictly a brand awareness play. You can do these other things, the customer service, whatever, but social media is by definition more of a brand awareness play because if it's a sales channel, then your job goes from attracting and resonating with and encouraging people to just going in for the hard sell. It's just going in for like, say, hey, here's a discount, here's a sale, which again, sometimes that might work. But when that's all your account does, you're not going to get any new followers out of it. And you're certainly not going to get much in the way of engagements. It's about building a community and building a relationship. That is social media marketing. When you think about your target audience and how they're engaging with a brand online. All right, some big benefits here. One, I talked about brand awareness, but you get increased exposure, but then you can also get more traffic to your website if you have links. There's also brand loyalty. You get some insights into what the market's like, all these other things. The other thing here, I talked a little bit about this. It's cost effective. Um, before social media, there was no way to get your brand out to the masses without spending a bunch of money or hiring an agency, like the Mad Men era. Today, you can do all of that really easily for free in a matter of minutes. And you can do it quickly. I don't like the improved sales bullet point, but I have to put it here just in case, it is technically something. But hey, big guys here, cost effective, and you can do it quickly. All right. The social media skills gap is pretty massive, and that'll be a part later in the semester. Only 12% of companies who use social media feel like they do so effectively. That's a huge issue. And if you think about like who are the people that what are the skills that you need on social media? Um, Really, I look at these three. You need the ability to write and create engaging content. You need to have an analytics mindset, that big time. You're always looking at obsessing over the numbers, seeing what's working, what's not working, how you can improve it, make data driven decisions. But then also, you need to be on top of the trends and understanding what's hot. That's really crucial. If you can't do that, algorithms change all the time. You can lose out on best practices, and you can miss trending stories, trending topics that you can utilize for your brand to increase brand awareness and stay on top of things. Now, finally, the last couple of slides here. I know I just said that, but there are so many jobs always out there for social media marketing, and they always get a ton of applicants. The last social media job I posted, I got 300 applications in a couple of weeks. To me, that really showed me that, hey, like there's a ton of people out there looking for jobs, and there's so many different topics. I don't think about a blogger maybe, but like there's so many topics, so many jobs. A lot of them are part time. A lot of them are full time. Some pay well, some don't. All of that is to say, there are also this idea of a social media manager, which is really what this, the an advanced level um, individual with social media experience should be able to do. If you've never worked in social media before, maybe you won't be a social media manager, but if you have, maybe you already are, it's important to understand what are the skills that are necessary to have that type of role. After all, the course that I teach is all about preparing you to manage people in social media, not just do it yourself. I've been managing people in social media for about 12 years, and I can certainly attest to this list of skills you got to have. So the three in the bold are the ones that you'll see another time. You got to have some good writing skills. You need to understand sales and customer service, but you also have to have a broader strategic focus. The broader strategic focus is where it's like, oh, I don't care as much about the music that you put on the background or the dance that's happening. I'm thinking more about the business objectives that tie back to this. Um, Now, again, you need those other skills. You need to be creative. You need to be organized. You need to adapt to the trends. And yes, you need to be able to manage your community on social media. Um, but that strategic focus is really critical, or else you can easily get lost into the day-to-day minutia and really, fail to understand how it is that social media can actually improve a company's performance and not just be an expense. Um, so I want to go back to this. Being an active consumer of social media does not make you an expert, but you do have to stay on top of the trends. I'm on top of the trends all the time, constantly looking for new tidbits, nuggets that we can try out. You can check out Social Media Examiner. I like Social Media Today probably the most because they're really quick tidbits. Um, like for example, the new one that just came out recently that I just learned about today from Social Media Today, that Instagram is going to start showing and measuring more how many people skip, how many people just scroll past your content. Um, to me, that is really interesting. I don't remember what it was called, but or retention, I think it is. On Instagram, retention. Hey, if I just scroll past your video after 1 second, okay, you did not retain me. That was not a good video. It provides more information to creators and the people that create this content. Hey, this hook worked, this hook didn't. And YouTube has this. They have a retention chart that you can look at for all your videos to see when people drop off over the course. But this is really a nice big step forward. And you wouldn't have known this if you weren't constantly on top of all of the social media news that's happening. Whoops, I went the wrong way. All right, last slide. Hey, just wrapping it up. So on Earth, there's 5.24 billion active social media users. There's a little over 8 billion people. But it's time for brands know that they need to have a social media presence. The question is, what are you going to do with it? If you were in charge of a brand social media presence, what would be your goals? What would you be trying to do? That's a big question. There's a lot that goes into that, a lot of discussions to be had and angles to consider. But as we wrap up this quick introduction, just think about, if you have your brand on social media, you have a limited amount of time, limited amount of resources, what is it that you would try to do? We will explore that in the coming weeks. But for now, we will stop there.